Yeah, it has something
So
to do with like seeing somebody's face and trust it. Like you hear all these fucking scammers and shit, and like the fire festival guy, like, oh, he's such a personable guy, so I gave him $20
yeah,
million. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, he didn't do shit. He's
yeah.
never done anything.
All right, so let's get into it. So you caught us while we were having a really interesting conversation before it started. Just I went on one of my rants about anonymity and student anonymity and stuff. But today we have with us today, Tuesday, June 17th. We're doing this a little bit different this week. Bumped it up a day earlier. Usually we're on Wednesday. Today we have DeLuca from OpenZeppelin with us. Probably the only person more rational about
Mm.
Ethereum than myself. DeLuca, welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Give us a brief intro. We don't like doing these like, typical interviews where the whole thing is like, telling your life story. But for the people that don't know about OpenZeppelin, don't know you, give us a brief little 1 minute intro on what you do there and, who you are, your kind of background.
Yeah, sure. Well, OpenZeppelin was actually founded like 10 years ago. We have the same birthday as ETH. So, we've
Wow.
been bullish ETH every year, 10 years going. And yeah, I mean, our mission is to accelerate and protect the open economy. We've been doing that, I guess, since Ethereum started. We were trying to do it on Bitcoin. It was pretty hard. Bitcoin's a bit too simple, and that's the kind of goal of Bitcoin. And so as soon as Ethereum kind of got its start, we started, building a library that became the canonical, basically, library for smart contract development. So if you ask any developer or pretty much anyone that's like deployed a smart contract, even if it's a super simple ERC20, they've used OpenZeppelin contracts, and you can think of them as like building blocks that developers use because they're just like battle tested, they're extremely well audited and extremely well written, that it just makes it so much easier to kind of like launch an application or a token. And so I think we have I think an average across all of the Ethereum chains, so EVM chains, where you can deploy code in Solidity, I think 70% market share of all transaction volume is running through OpenZeppelin contracts. So that's about like 25 trillion in total value transferred since we started tracking that those metrics. I think the TVL varies obviously with the market and the price of ETH, but I think we're around like $150 billion in TVL, give or take, that are stored right, like using OpenZeppelin contracts. And so through that, we built an open source company. Today we have a security audit business where we audit a lot of the leading smart contract systems out there, like Uniswap. We've audited Aave and a lot of other protocols, and we continue building a lot of open source like libraries and tools that just bring more people building on ETH. Nowadays, a lot of that time is spent actually helping some of the larger financial institutions come and build in this space. And my journey was, I had a company at university. COVID killed it. I didn't know what to do. I started going to hackathons and building applications on Ethereum. Started, building also pieces of infrastructure, and eventually that just brought me to OpenZeppelin, where I've been doing this with the great team we have here. So yeah, that's a bit about us.
I got a question on, I guess for people who don't know, Luke and I know each other in real life, but we don't talk like shop. We're, biking, we're hitting the beach tennis, we're eating steaks, we're living it up. I'm more curious on like how big the team is and then why you guys kind of became the biggest player in the space and why people trust you versus, the one small guy shop, one person shop, 5-person shop. More curious on that side of the business.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do tell you that you should be buying more ETH, I guess, on the bike, right? But
We'll get there. We'll get there.
we'll
Okay.
get it. No, yeah. So we, I think we're around 120 or 130 people. We're a globally distributed company, and obviously there is a first mover advantage. I think we're the first smart contract auditing company that ever was, right? So that helped us really build a reputation. We found a critical vulnerability, I think it was in 2016, of the actual like Solidity compiler, and therefore we then, audited Solidity. Our team become extremely, developed a really good expertise on the language, the EVM, and that really helped us, create, like legitimize, our team, our brand. And ever since, I think what the team has really done, really well is maintaining that reputation. So, we people come back to us because they really do see the quality of the audit work we do, and also, they're thankful for the library that we give them, right, which actually often reduces their auditing costs and accelerates their go to market, because you have these pre-audited components that you can use, right? And yeah, I think people keep coming back to OpenZeppelin because they really do trust the quality of the work that we do. The approach we take to auditing, I think, is very unique. And once again, right, like we do that while putting public goods out there, right? Like we invest a lot of money on our open source every year. We invest a lot of audit weeks. I think our 5.0 version of the library took well over like 34 auditor weeks. And if you've ever paid for a smart contract audit, you know that every week is pretty expensive. So, that's a lot of money that we're investing in auditing our library, in engineering that goes into the library. And then there's a lot of tooling like our contract wizard. We have a lot of other open source tools like monitoring, relayers. And so I think people just appreciate all the public goods work we do. They want to come back to us. They know that, we really understand these systems in and out. And we've expanded, right? Like we've also started doing audits in Rust and other languages as other platforms kind of appeared. We have like a cryptography team nowadays. So, that just also meant that we were growing with our customers, and, their demands became more complex, and we were kind of always there to support them.
Yeah, that's a big thing, right? Once you get the first contract, they're not, and you do a good job. Well, granted, you do a good job. They're not leaving. They're not going to go shop around somewhere else. I know minimal to none about smart contract audits. I'm a trader at heart. We can talk vol and trading all day long. It's usually that's what the show is about. Is we host traders, protocols in the option space. So I think this is one of the first times that we have like a true builder in the E space. And I think it's your time to shine. You guys can bounce ideas off of each other, but these are the two most ETH rationalists, not maximalists, that I know. Of course, everybody is a profit maxi at heart, but I'm more curious on your ETH thesis and why ETH. I know you talk to the big shops. I know you're in bed with the banks. I know that people are building. I get to hear it every 5 seconds of my life when we're betting a poker pot against each other. And it's I'm more curious on a more in-depth, thoughtful process on the ETH thesis.
Yeah, and I guess I guess if the audience is more of a trading audience, they might, this might be a bit far in the way I look at ETH, and the way I also explain it to my friends that are more in the trading side of crypto, right? I really look at Ethereum on a much longer term horizon, and the space in general, right? I'm not in the weeds of the kind of short term swings of the market, so I don't try and bet on that, right? I try and take a position that I believe makes sense and is rational in the long term. I also would say like we are really rationalists at OpenZeppelin. Like even though we've been in bed with Ethereum since the early days, right? And we're very close to a lot of the organizations, and we still, most of our energy is spent on Ethereum, whether that's auditing or open source work. Like we are working with other layer ones that, we believe have very innovative approaches, and, will potentially capture like a large share of, the financial system. Like the world is massive geographically. There's many different layers of finance, and, unfortunately, even if ETH might turn out to be the winner, like there will be, other smart contract platforms that I believe will find a niche and a space to exist, and a reason to exist. So I think that I still believe ETH, right? And this is just for the work we do and the data we look at. It's still leading in so many ways, right? And I think especially if we look at like both DeFi and I think the traditional financial markets, where I think we still see as the two areas where we'll be seeing the most amount of growth in the next decade. It's I keep telling, right, like folks that, the largest DeFi protocols are still looking at Ethereum and at Solidity when they come to us. And, that's just the reality of it. And then, I think now we have calls, we have a team focusing on financial markets. I'm often looped into, that go to market. And, I've not once, I still have to discuss with one financial institution, that of something they're building outside of Ethereum, right? They are there, right? But when we're discussing their production kind of applications that they want to ship, it's on Ethereum first, right? And so I think we will see like financial institutions maybe like deploying an asset on Ethereum, and it will be cross-chain enabled. And so, you'll be able to, have it on Solana or an L2. But I think people really value like ETH L1 and the fact that it provides, more decentralization, more security. It's never gone down, right? Like the downtime is important. There's less counterparty risk. Like I think if you talk to any bank, that they're thinking around like about that really seriously. And so it's funny, like they actually understand, a lot of the things that I think the Ethereum community has optimized for, which is like censorship resistance and decentralization. Like they understand that like quite a bit actually, right? If you look at like the systems that they've created, like Swift, it's an international system where it's really like they've done everything they could in terms of governance to reduce counterparty risk and one person kind of owning that, right? And breaking Swift. And that's why Swift is so successful. It works, it's global, it's kind of decentralized, there's governance around it. And sure, like now it's probably run by, a small cabal of like big banks, and that's just, how over time things centralize, but it still has done a lot of work to reduce like counterparty risk. And I think Ethereum L1 presents the best kind of path for that. So I think financial institutions are looking at ETH. The best DeFi protocols look at ETH because it's where most of the liquidity, or Ethereum, where most of the liquidity is. And then I think the asset itself has really good has really been well designed. I think if you look at how ETH has issuance programmatically embedded into the asset, and people are seeing it as, I think, digital oil. It's just, still the best place to go build, and still, I think, the best asset to hold outside of maybe, Bitcoin, which has a little bit more of a Lindy effect, but I don't think that's going to last for long.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I mean, we only trade Bitcoin and ETH contracts. We're not over here, slanging meme coins or going directional. So when we do look at the two biggest markets in the option space, the most liquid markets, it's Bitcoin by a long shot, and then ETH is the runner up. And I think when ETH was, 13, 1400, like people started to give up. You even had a two prime, which is a U.S. Regulated, registered asset manager, and they sold them on. They gave up on ETH as a whole and pivoted to Bitcoin only strategies, doing directional stuff, doing vol plays, doing different SMA, like managing other people's accounts with various strategies. And I think we saw. I mean, you could probably go back in my Twitter feed or any of the poker games. I'm like, dude, ETH is $1,400. It's down 60% on the year. Like, how can any asset manager take that asset serious? And that when you look back and you're trading a 70 vol asset and you're only getting maybe a 20% return every year, it's like not necessarily worth it at all. And especially when you're playing these quarter games, it's different when you're an individual or you're ETH focused treasury, and you can play the long game, the 5 to 10 to 20-year game. You can have these more thoughtful deep processes, and as an individual, if you 5x your money, that's a great trade. But as a asset manager, when you look at it every quarter, that you either have to be profitable or not, and if you're not, people pull their money. It's a very hard asset to put money to work in, um, unless you're doing non-directional plays. I don't know, you're buying spot and selling the future, right? You're picking up the basis trade, but even that is not necessarily that attractive right now when treasuries are 5%. ETH is I think it's like 7 or 8% basis on the whole year. It's not as attractive as it was in December or when the ETFs came out in last March. I'm totally in and totally down for more structured products, which is just a more complicated way of saying options offerings in the traditional space on ETH, because they do have 2 and 3 year contracts. Where if you look in the crypto space, we only have 1 year contracts. So once you start to get these 2, 3 year contracts and you get native staking in the ETF, you're getting automated generated yields. You can start to create various, I don't like using the word complex, but more complicated, complex options payoffs that then the asset managers or portfolio managers can go shop out. So they have different ones like principal protected note. We now that the native yield is in there, that 2-3%, we guarantee 2-3%, and you're going to get 100% downside protection. If ETH goes to zero, you still make that 3%. That's a simple one. There's barrier options. There's knockout options. It goes as deep as a rabbit hole as you want, and that's where I become more interested in ETH once the native staking comes out. And you do have companies like Bitwise, which is a US ETF issuer. They went out and bought a staking company. That every day they're trying to update their paperwork in the US to get staking approved. But I think at some point, once you're guaranteeing profit, it becomes a security versus a commodity. And the US is still in a little bit of a hiccup on what crypto is, how to regulate it, and what the next steps are. They definitely
guarantee profit. They can guarantee a yield, like an in-kind yield, but that doesn't necessarily equate to profit. So
yeah, in-kind yield, that makes it a security. When you're guaranteeing yield, okay, that means profit, yield, however you want to look at it, in kind, that means security. So the US still is in this weird, I don't know, loophole, or I don't know, they're digging their own fucking hole now. They're trying to climb out of what is a commodity, what is a security, what's taxable, at what rates. And there has been a shift of the US, definitely. Even the SEC is talking about DeFi and regulating DeFi and talking to real builders in the space. But you still haven't seen this mega shift that I thought we would see by now. Like, go try to bank $1 million of crypto in one day. They're like, oh, account's closed. Sorry, this is too high risk for us, right? The banks still aren't on board with it. They're still very conservative.
yeah.
We really need a clear cut regulations and guidelines and tax guidance in the US for the rest of it to pick up. And then I think the rest will come, native staking, these structured products that I've been talking about. And that's, do you buy then when it's approved, or is it already too late, right? Oh, staking's approved, it's up 20%. But if you've been
Yeah, I mean, look
accumulating
at it already. Like every time that there's a shift in sentiment, you see ETH
20% one day,
yeah,
one
run.
day.
It's known for that. Something that you were saying, Luca. Oh, well, actually, a lot of what you're saying, Marty hears from me every time I go on my rants about ETH.
It's fucking mini
for-
cozy, dude. It's a
Yeah, it's
repetitive,
like
broken record.
literally most of what you said is like generally my thesis. And the only thing that I will add to it is like I've always looked at it as like the new like financial internet, kind of like when you look at where things are built. And you look at like the old internet and like what it was. It's like it's a bunch of places people can go for commerce and to like interact with one another, or to transfer value or content of some kind. And like that's what Ethereum has become. It's like the place where, as you said, there's the most liquidity. People value it for its security, its uptime. And that's where the world, it's not just the US or not just like somewhere in Europe, but the whole world has kind of chosen, based on the amount of liquidity that's been there over the last almost decade, uh, chosen that for its like global place to build applications, for people to transfer value and transfer content. So I kind of see it as like, the, like people call it, very cliche Web3, but in reality, it kind of is, the Web3.
Like your analogy or your saying of, ETH is your home base. You
Oh,
go
the
swim out
nation
to
state theory.
the
Yeah, yeah.
nation state there. That's like
Yeah, so
I think
you
you
know
guys
that
are
was the
wrong
other
on
thing Luca was talking about. How he said, you know, like there'll always be other chains, and like you know, I believe the same thing. Like ETH isn't going to be like the winner, as in like everything else dies. There's no other applications or smart contract, you know, substrates that people are building on. People will always have preferences, and there will always be like a base layer, a substrate that aligns with their preferences that may not be Ethereum. And you're going to have a collection of builders that choose to build there and call that their home for whatever reason. And then you're going to have people who are the speculators that are, you know, the people that like to go on vacation. And it's like whenever something new comes out, you know, a new casino, a new set of games, they're going to take a little trip, go over there, you know, spend their money, maybe make some money. If not, lose a lot, and then they go back home. So it's like this nation state theory where, you know, like you're born somewhere or you choose a home somewhere because it aligns with you and your values, and you may go take a trip and check things out at some other nation, but you usually, when you're done, you know, you go back home.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I think if you're, and especially the L1 still has that effect of, you know, being that safe haven, right? I think if you ask anyone like where would you put $1 million and you'd be okay, kind of like not touching them for 5-10 years, I don't think anyone would, you know, I mean, maybe the Solana folks would be okay leaving it on Solana, but I think most people that are in the crypto space wouldn't feel comfortable with that. I think, you know, also I would say maybe Ethereum has a Microsoft effect as well for banks, right? It's just it's an operating system that's just more familiar, and it's been there for longer. It's like no one's going to get fired for at like a financial institution for building on Ethereum, whereas, you know, some of the other chains, there's still a lot of risk, and so yeah, it is still the best, most stable home. I think again, some other chains will definitely impress us, but it is really hard. It's still hard for Ethereum to like, you know, it execute on its roadmap. It has a lot of challenges, but it definitely has built the best home for builders, for assets, for institutions, and that's, you know, it's hard to change that. So I think, yeah, we're gonna see others, but if will I still see it dominating across all of our discussions, across our, you know, our company's time and mind share, and I think that will continue at least for the time being.
I think you also people have TikTok right now and simply forget, dude. ETH used to be down, or not ETH. Sorry, whoa, that was about to be clip farm for sure. The Solana was down like 10 times in a fucking week, like over and over, like over a period of months. It was down over and over and over again. And only now it's become more stable. And only now, you know, meme coins are traded there. But same conversations I'm having. You're not seeing people put Solana treasuries on, where you're definitely seeing ETH treasuries, you're seeing Bitcoin treasuries, you're seeing the options market pick up in Bitcoin and ETH, mostly Bitcoin. But people simply forget that like Solana was down for a long period of time. And what else is being built on Solana right now besides shitters and meme coins and, you know, pumped off fund extracted a bunch of money, sure, you know, stuff like that. But you're not seeing any real, I don't know, real builders building on Solana. It just all seems more like a cash grab. I'm more curious on how we move forward in like the chain abstraction. Like, do we think that users are going to just have a wallet and the wallet is just wallet? You know, there's no chain. You just interact, and then the back end, it's doing all the work for you. Like, how do we stop this fragmentation of money? Every time I post about it, somebody's like, "Oh, well, there's various banks," and I'm like, yeah, but it's still the US dollar and they're all talking to each other, and you can send a wire for unlimited amount of money and it will be there by the afternoon if it's US and US. Sure, international fragmentation and various currencies and Swift is a fucking another story and is absolutely terrible. But how do we stop this crypto fragmentation of assets where, I don't know, you have money on Solana and you want it in ETH. Like right now, I just want to send it. I don't want to be the end user, and I don't care what chain it's on. I just want my money right now. Like how do we fix that? If you guys have any ideas there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work happening on that. I mean, you know, we're working on many fronts there across our libraries or tools to, help some of our customers and the ecosystem deliver on better UX. It's one of the priorities for, I think, the entire Ethereum ecosystem. Obviously a lot of the other platforms are focusing on that. I think we take it for granted how long it took for our mobile apps or the internet as we use it for our browsers like became user friendly. Ethereum has been here for a decade, and not only we've had to solve like building a decentralized computer with tens of thousands of validators across the world that coordinate, organize with 12 clients that upgrade when there's a hard fork, like there's forks. It's a lot of work has gone in like thinking of the base layer. And now, yes, there's a lot of focus. And I think the next decade will be focused on like just having great UX. And you can already see it in some apps, right? I think some of us are still stuck using MetaMask because we're early adopters and we haven't switched. But if you go out there and you are, let's say, on the Opera browser using ManyPay with, which is an embedded wallet they have, which is on Celo, you only see US dollars, even though you might have USDT there, USDC. Like it's extremely user friendly, right? Or let's say Coinbase just launched the Coinbase Business, right? And you're going to be able to, use USDC on base there, and you're going to get your 4%, and it's all abstracted, right? Like Coinbase custody, like they've built a lot of the infrastructure, right, in making sure like their custody system
That was
is
with
extremely safe.
Shopify. They just announced something with Shopify, right? For online
Yeah, they
payments,
also
USDC. That's huge.
Yeah, they also launched that, which I think is huge because it undercuts Visa and MasterCard, right? Which I think, a lot of the crypto cards are a good step, I think, in the right direction because it makes it easier to use your crypto, but it's a small step, right? It's a tiny step. It's like, okay, great. Now I still use Visa, MasterCard, but but I get to use my crypto. Whereas like, I think what Shopify and Coinbase are doing now, it's like, okay, now you get to use your whichever wallet you have, you get to use it to do payments on Shopify natively on base. Like that's what we've always needed. And eventually, we're going to have people that are going to do the hard work of getting merchants on board and give them benefits through like something like Coinbase Business. Like, hey, you get your 4% yield with USDC if you hold it. And so, let's undercut some of the kind of incumbents here. So that will come. And I think, again, UX is just a question. Like you can go out there and get really, really good UX. There's still some quirks because of, how smart contracts are still designed. You have to sometimes sign stuff if you're in a non-custodial wallet and a self-custodial wallet. So there's still some quirks that need to be figured out, and a lot of work is being done to, for example, use like your Apple Secure Enclave to be able to sign stuff. So at least you're using Face ID, and then we still have to wallets need to become a lot better at like decoding the data to the user and make it human readable. So there's still some quirks that need to be figured out. It's going to take a few years, but you can already go out there and get like better user experience than banks. I think it's a lot of us are just stuck in our MetaMask because we're early adopters.
Yeah, you get the thing, Marty, like for some wallets, like for EVM compatible networks, it's really easy, I think, to do the type of chain abstraction that you're imagining, because that is more on like the application side. A lot of that tech is already built to be able to handle swaps and bridges and transfers and things like that seamlessly without the user feeling like they're needing to click too many buttons or do too much. But when you get to other types of assets like Bitcoin like assets, and you're trying to do these types of atomic swaps and mask UI UX or make it very seamless so that they feel like they're using the same type of wallet, that's where it gets more difficult for the developer, because sometimes they're needing to integrate their own node software for the user, or let's say they want to integrate XMR with it. Well, now they have to integrate like a suite of tools for that so the user can run their own node and choose how many rings they want. Like there are different intricacies to the types of assets that people use, to where it gets a bit more full of friction the further out on the spectrum you go from EVM like assets or networks.
Yeah, like I just want to use the chain. Like that should be the fucking name of the chain. It's the chain. We have all of it, okay? It's all of it, all right? It's all inclusive.
Like
it's a resort. You don't have to fucking leave. Drinks are included. Food's included. It's just the fucking chain, okay?
But even that, like I'll give my props to, if you go check out like Exodus Wallet, they've done a really good job making it feel like you're using the same wallet for every asset, but also have the option to, if you want, like run your own infrastructure or choose the infrastructure that you're pointing to for certain types of assets that would matter to the user.
Yeah. Luca, I know you got to run here pretty soon, but as we always do live on the show, we will clip farm you. Gun to the head. Gun to the head. Price predictions. We can do, well, the quarter is almost over at the end of June, but we can do end of the year or just like a long-term target. And if it ever hits, you'll always be right.
So you want me to give like price predictions for ETH?
Yeah. And then we're going to clip farm it, and then we're going to put it on TikTok, and then we're going to, no. We don't do that. We don't do that.
No, we don't clip. We won't clip farm. I mean, someone,
No.
someone may point back to you if they like you that much, but I mean, we
imagine you were
ourselves.
Right. But imagine you were right.
Imagine I was right. I mean, I think you want an end of the year prediction, right? Like that's
you can do end of the year, or like a 5, 10 year, because we're traders, so we're looking by quarter, we're looking annual. ETH is still down, sorry to say, 25% year to date. Great return.
It's up 2x from what, fucking April?
Yeah, but nobody bought April. Everybody bought fucking 3,800, 4K, and Trump in December, November. That's when everybody bought. We're down 25% on the year. We're down 31% year over year, and we are the same price as 2021. So maybe not an end of year prediction, but a long-term thesis. ETH is the greatest.
Yeah,
well, Bitcoin
I think
up 11% year to date. So we have some
11% year to date. Wow.
Yeah. EWZ, the Brazilian MSCI ETF is up a lot more. Is up like 25% year to date, 26% year to date. So Brazil's on top this year. End of year or forever price prediction on ETH. If it's a forever one, you can never be wrong because it never happened yet.
I definitely, so I think on the long run, if ETH does become digital oil, if the L1 is really strong and it is the hub for most asset, or even any high high value transactions that require like a trust machine like Ethereum is, I do think ETH could get to something like 80K per ETH. So you could hold me to that.
Wow.
But again, I think that's a very long term. I think that's a very long term prediction. And to be honest, I'm not a trader, so I'm just taking that out of a report I really like that was released recently from ETH Realize. They laid out some thoughts on ETH as digital oil, and I think it just brought back some of the terms that were being used maybe in the last bull market with like a refreshed, I think, bull case for the asset. And I think, yeah, maybe I'm not as bullish as them. I think that was their medium term prediction. I would say that's probably my long term prediction. It's pretty bullish. I think you can see the report at like ethdigitaloil.com, and they have some, they have a report laid out, and it was more directed to the trading desk. I know they're doing a lot of work, outside of just, talking about the asset. They're also working with institutions and onboarding them, into Ethereum bit, and they have a great team there. But I would say that, yeah, that's probably my long-term prediction. I think, yeah, the asset can definitely hit that value. And then short term, I do think we could see ETH at, close to 10K within the next year. Like that really depends on so many, short-term variables like the macro environment, and there's things that are happening right now that could make that very hard. So I don't know. I'm not a trader on the short term, so it's really hard for me to come up with something like that. But yeah, I guess you could see ETH to 10K in the next 12 months. That's a possibility, I think.
Well, we did see this in February 24. That was the ETF announcement. We were the same price, 2,500, let's call it. We went 2,500 to 4,100 in the matter of a few weeks, a month. Let's call it a month.
Imagine what rumors can stake.
Yeah, and then you get these 20% rips. I mean, we've been here before. We hit 4,800, 4,900, that all-time high, July to November. So maybe we don't get what are they calling this one? They're calling this one Joyful June. Besides this fucking war that's going on, that's hurting our price. I think it would be a lot more higher if we didn't have global tension of non G20 countries. People forget that these countries aren't even that big. Um, I like the bull case back up to 3K. 3K end of day. Say it with me because it rhymes. Like 3K round number thesis, 3K, 4K.
Dude,
You start hitting these milestones.
we were one fucking
$100 away.
We were one Vitalik with a girl pic away from 3K. Like literally one picture, Vitalik taking with a new girl, and like
yep,
one banana pic away was all
one
taken.
One banana pic, we would have ripped 20%. No, I think you get today everything's down right now. Iran is facing some major internet and cellular outages because of a cyber attack. Okay, that's not great. So like all of this like noise in the short term, and then you look at, I don't know, next month they announce staking's live. You're going to get a 20% day, and 20% from here is pretty much 3K. It is 3K. So you could hit 3K in exactly one day of a good announcement, and then all it takes is a lot of ETF inflows. I think we're only 10% of total Bitcoin ETF flows. If we start pumping, you start hitting the round number thesis, 3K, 4K, new all-time highs, 5K. I'm there with you. It's going to take a lot of work to get there, but definitely plausible, definitely possible. Dude,
Yeah, and
what
I
is
think
happening?
You just have to believe.
Believe. That's all you have to do.
Marty,
I think the momentum is there.
We don't have to. We believe. You don't believe.
Believer. No, we hold spot for trading coin margin contracts. So, we ride the wave, we hedge out when we can on the spot side. We do treasury management in ETH. Of course, when a market maker is telling you some side, maybe they want you to do the other thing, or maybe they have a product to sell you. So there's also that side. Like one of my buddies is always like, you're selling calls. You want it to go down. Yeah, of course I want to fucking make money, but I want the longevity of the ecosystem to stay. And I was here for the tech and stayed for the money. But today, not too good. U.S. is to decide today on involvement in Iran conflict. Not a great way to start the day, or end the day, I should say. I'm getting on a plane tonight, and I hope you guys fucking figure it out without me.
You're not keeping Wi-Fi on the plane? Are you not going to use?
Dude, honestly, I think I need a day off of fucking.
No tiki-taki for you?
No tiki-taki, no Facebook, no Instagram. They say like Instagram. Luca, how do you say Instagram?
Instagram.
See, Instagram. See?
Yeah,
They just start. That one's okay. But Facey-bookie, Mackie-bookie, those ones are great.
Tiki-taki is the one I like. Yeah, that's
Tiki-taki.
That's my favorite. Well, Luca, it was great meeting you, meeting you. Pleasure having you on. You'll have to come back again sometime in the near future. We like to have repeat guests, especially rationalists in the ecosystem.
Yeah, it was great to be here. It's cool to see the other side. I spent too much time with builders, and it's at the end of the day, a lot of the space is about trading, and that's keep selling ETH, keep making it a successful asset. We need you, so keep buying it. It's digital oil, and yeah, we'll be back soon.
Awesome. Sounds like somebody who wants to sell their bags at 8K would say, but I'm with you. Keep it going.
80K.
80K?
Yeah,
80 for the long
80.
It's his long-term bet. I thought you said 8K. I was like, oh, 8K.
That is
8K tomorrow.
Target I've ever heard in my life, and
80K.
I'm here for it.
Oh, end the stream. Sorry, we're having a power outage. 80K. Okay, 80K in May. Say it with me because it rhymes. That's what the Bitwise the Bitwise guy said on Bitcoin, and then we went down like 20%. But you're getting a free entry here on this war news. Set the bids, layer them down, and come back in a few months, dude. They do this shit every 6 months. It's a perfect entry for an 80K long-term thesis.
It is a good time to enter.
Also down 7%. I mean, of course, you could have a flash wick. You need to have capital, to not do that, not get liquidated. But layer some bids if you're bullish. Not financial advice. Come back 80K. You heard it here first. Thanks, Luca. I know you got to run. Cozy, thanks for setting it up today.
It's great talking with y'all. Very fun. I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Bye, everyone.
Later, Pimps.